Hey guys, welcome to Indie Game Hustle. In this video, we're going to take a look at how we can actually export a game object created in Unity into RPG Bakin. So, if you've seen this channel, you will notice that I'm more of a Unity person. I've been using Unity for quite some time. And so, of late, I wanted to kind of play with and kind of take a look at RPG Bakin. Well, I started to kind of really like it, and I really like all the different tools, and I really like how it approaches things. It's very similar to RPG Maker. It keeps things simple. I want to make a turn-based type of game without too much coding. I really like all those elements, but I still enjoy 3D modeling. I really enjoy blocking things out in a 3D modeling package, and I really like using Unity for doing some of those things. I know I can use Blender, but I'm still used to some of the ways that Unity and its controls and the navigation of orbiting an object and all of those things kind of work. And so, with that said, I personally have been using Unity as a 3D modeling package for probably a couple years now. I started using ProBuilder, and then I started using UModeler. And UModeler has been a game changer because it really has some really neat tool sets that really puts it closer to the Blender side. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not quite Blender. And so what I would say is, why not try to use Unity as an actual 3D modeling package if the other ones are either too complicated or too expensive or whatever the case may be. So this is what this tutorial today is going to be about. So let's take a look at Unity and using UModeler to export a game object into Bakin. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go into Unity here. Now, if you're not familiar with Unity, I would recommend looking at some videos about how Unity works. This is really not a Unity tutorial, but I'll try my best to kind of walk you through the basics of it. So the first thing said is UModeler. UModeler is a game asset or a Unity asset that you can purchase on the Unity Asset Store. Now, there's two versions of UModeler. There's UModeler, and then there's UModeler X. UModeler is a paid version of it, and that's the older version, but it has some very unique tools like the push-pull tool, the sketch tool. And then you have UModeler X. That's new. It's currently in beta, and it's going to get all of the same tool sets as UModeler, but they're coming. They're not quite here yet. But as it stands right now, it's a very capable modeling solution. And the great thing about UModeler X is that it's not only for modeling, you can also do rigging, and you can also do texturing right inside of Unity. So to me, that's a pretty good indication that Unity's not really a game engine, is it? It's more like a tool if you want to use it that way. Matter of fact, in a lot of ways, I open Unity only to 3D model. So keep that in mind. So the first thing you want to do is, if you don't already have UModeler, I would say head over to the asset store and type in UModeler. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go over to Window inside Unity, and then I'm going to go to the Package Manager. Now, the Package Manager is basically Unity's way where you can download plugins in a way, right? But it's the assets. So for instance, these are assets that I've purchased over the years. There's so many of them, in this case 317, but that's beside the point. There's all types of stuff that you can get. But all you got to do is go UModeler, and once you actually purchase it, it'll show up in this list. Okay. So if you don't, you can view it in Asset Store, and I'm gonna just go ahead and open that up so you can get a sense as to what we're looking for. This is UModeler. This is the first version of it, and it's an amazing solution, as you can see here. Modeling all types of stuff right inside the engine. It's amazing. But if you don't want to spend the money for that, you can take a look at UModeler X. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. So UModeler X is currently in beta, so you can download this for free. and it's going to have pretty much all of the same features minus a few things, but also it has some additional things that the old version does not have. As you can see, it's model, rig, and paint with AI as well. But just so you know, the AI part, there is a process of installing that. Don't worry about it. You don't even have to use it. I don't particularly use it. I did try it out some months ago. But again, you can do modeling, rigging, and painting. And you can ignore this if you're not into the AI thing. So with that said, once you get that, you would just go to the package manager, and then you would hit import or download first and then import it. It's going to save it to your PC or your Mac, however that works, and on a Mac, and then hit import. Once you import it, you're going to see the UModeler Hub, and the UModeler Hub is a hub pretty much, and basically it gives you the ability to then select the products. So in this case, UModeler X. So you would just download the latest to your system, and you can even choose different versions of it if need be, but the latest is usually the greatest. So I would just stick with that. Download it this way. Once you install it again, it'll show up in your list of packages here, just like it does here in mine, and then you'll be off to the races. All right, so with that said, what you would want to do is, once you have that installed, what I would recommend is first checking your grid snapping. I would say put this to 1 across the board here. Turn on your grid so you can see it, and you're all set there. Then you go to Tools, go to UModeler X, and you can just click New Object. All right, so once you have a new object selected, and you have your grid and your snapping and everything on, there you go. So we have that snapping. So now on the right side, this is pretty much our game object information here. So what I'm going to do is click and drag in the viewport, and I'm just going to go up. Now, if you don't want this size, you can change it here just like that. That's all good. I'm just going to go 10, and that's going to give us a pretty good size for Bakin. All right. And now the reason I know that is because I've kind of already tested this, of course, but I also exported the Bakin model directly into the engine to double check my proportions and my scale and all of those things. So this gives you a starting base here. All right. So just a quick run through with UModeler. This is the object that we just created, and at the top of your screen you're going to get some different tool sets. So this here is a new UModeler tool. So if you click this, you can create yet another object right inside the scene. I'm just going to hit delete. Another object is this here. This is going to take you to the preferences screen so you can make some changes. I typically make changes here to change things like my vertex size or my vertex color or the edge color, that sort of thing, so you can make those changes as needed. And then you have your vertex, edge tool, and face. So this is going to be exactly what you expect if you're familiar with 3D modeling. You're going to have access to being able to manipulate vertexes just like you would in any other 3D modeling package, like a Blender or a Maya. And then you have your edge tool as well. All right, and the face tool, there you go. And then you have your object tool, and this is just your top level tool here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, since I know that my proportions are good for this model, I'm going to go ahead and hide this character. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off. And there's my model here. So let's go ahead and make some changes to this model. We're going to do some cool little things, nothing major. This is just a quick tutorial to understand the basics of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom, scale this in, and then I'm going to hit the W key, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and pull up. And that is just extruding a game object. And you can also go, the next step is select an edge, and you can do something like a bevel. So when you have a game object selected, on the right side, this is going to be all your different tools. I'm going to get rid of this snap panel for the time being, so we don't really need this right now. So here is going to be all of your different tools. If you're familiar with something like Maya, or maybe not even Maya, but more like 3D Studio Max, and I think even Blender, you have the ability to, add different things like beveling and all that stuff here. So you can do all of those things here as well. So you can do beveling, you can do extruding, you can do welding, you can do deform, all types of different things based on whatever your modeling needs are. So just to kind of show you the power, say for instance, this is I just deleted that face. If I were to select, say, here and here, these two edges, what we would want to do is bridge these two edges together so we can close this hole, right, for the most part. So you would just go in here, it's going to be under the add section, and we'll just go over to bridge, and there you have it. And so we're now able to bridge that. So say for instance, we want to kind of scale that down, and then we can go in, we can do that as well. And we can do that. So yeah, it's a very capable modeling solution right inside Unity, and you don't even have to use Unity for Unity. You can just use it for 3D modeling. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that. So, all right. So now that we've kind of created that, I'm gonna get rid of that last extrude there. Now that we've created this wonderful model that took us like forever to create, let's look at a couple of more features before we move on. So inside of UModeler X is you have the ability to rig. Now I'm not going to rig anything, but this is an option. And then you also have the ability to do 3D painting. Now in the 3D painting, you have the ability to change the resolution. You can change it Unity standard, that's fine, back, and then you can hit start painting. And I'm going to hit start painting just like that. And so now what they have here is these different layers. Now you can create multiple layers and that sort of thing. And so what I'm going to do is paint right on this object, as you can see. And so what I'll do is go down here and maybe change it to red. And what I want to do is change the spacing. So right now my spacing is set to 4. I'm going to move it all the way down to say 0.1. And I'll change the size to something like this. And with that said, let me go ahead and create a new layer. And I'm going to do a paint layer. And so now we're on a new layer. I'll change the color. And I'll just go ahead and do something like that. And so now we can change the opacity if we want, but we don't need to. But you can change the hardness. So if you want it to be kind of more softer edge, or you could do a hard edge. So let's go hard edge. And as you can see, and if I do that, you can also do that. Let's see what else. What happened to my color? I must have changed it. All right. And so if I hold down the control key, we do that. But again, that's not the right tutorial for today. I'll be creating more for that. But for now, it's just kind of giving you an understanding that you can create textures directly inside Unity, and it's pretty cool. Now, the problem with this is that right now it's not really ready for texturing. I'm just drawing on it, but if you notice, I'm not able to paint up here and stuff like that. And that's because what we need to do is UV it before we really get into this. So the first thing I'll do is go ahead and get out of this mode. I'm going to go into this. I'm going to select that, select all my faces. I'll go into editor, and then you can select the UV editor as well. And so I'm just going to go full screen. So not only does it gives you the ability to paint and 3D model, you can also edit your UVs. So what I'm going to do is select all my UVs, and I'm just going to go to unwrap, and I'm just going to do an auto unwrap there. All right, so there's all my faces, and I'm just going to go ahead and minimize this down, and you can even rotate it if you want, just like so. Pretty cool. And if you want to get more space on there, you can do that. Great. All right, so I'll just call that done for now. All right, so there you have it. And then so what I'll do is go ahead and close this UV editor. So now this object should be UV'd. If it's not, let me go back one more time just to double check and make sure everything is selected. Everything looks to be selected. All right, and yeah, let's just go for that. All right, so now that everything should be UV'd, let's go back into our painting mode. And so now we should be able to texture in different places, and maybe it's still not doing it. Let me go back to my UV editor and see what's happening there. So that just shows that I'm not actually selecting that. So what I'll do is get out of the texture mode again and go back to UV editor one more time and make sure that we unwrap this guy here. So I think that should work. That seems right, because now we have those edges there. Let's just go ahead and go that route. All right, so that should get the job done. All right, so I'll just put that there and hit close on that. All right, great. So now I'm gonna go back into my painting mode, and now let's check one more time to see. All right, so there we go. So now we have some painting. We're painting over the edges. Everything is looking great. I'm not really a texture artist myself, but you know, if you are, this is gonna be great for you. So now you can kind of paint directly in Unity, and we can create more paint layers, and we can change colors. You can add textures. Don't worry, I will go over these types of details later. But for now, let's just assume that this is a wonderful piece of art. So there we go. So we just kind of created us a great texture for this object. Now, if we go back into object mode, the texture's gone. But what we really need to do is to export this. So we got to click on this here, and I'm going to go down where it says map source, and I'm just going to leave most of this stuff as default, and I'm going to export all. So exporting all of these different layers. All right, and so I'm going to hit export all, and then I'm going to put it, I'll just put it here for now, and I'll leave the name set as that. Okay, I'm gonna hit save. All right, so I just did that. And so now when I go into here, let's see here, I'm gonna get out of that mode. So now we're in this object mode, but if we go into our actual files and we look at modeling, there is our object that we just painted, or there's our texture that we just painted. Doesn't look like much, but what we're gonna do is go ahead and create a material. And we're just gonna call it UMod material. And then on our material, we're gonna drop this albedo directly here. And so there is our texture there. And what I'm gonna do is drop this onto the model there. Perfect. And so now that is exactly what we just textured. So we have the texture there, we have a material, and that material is now applied to this game object, all inside of Unity. Now, back to RPG Bakin. So now the goal here is to export this game object that's been textured and UV'd all inside Unity. And so now how do we do that? Now, what we have to do is go to game object and export to FBX, but you may not actually have this already installed. So to get it, you just simply have to go to Package Manager. You go to Unity Registry. You type in the word FBX, and you hit download and then install. And then once you install that and get that going, you'll get the option to export in FBX model. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and select the game object I want to export. And I'm gonna go to game object, and then I'm gonna export the FBX. We're just gonna call it UMod paint it _1. Sure, why not? And we're gonna put it in testing only. And I'll embed the textures. Let's see if it actually works. So I'm gonna hit export, and it should be exported. Everything should be there. If I go to testing only, here is that model, just like that. And if I hit this drop down on here, you'll see that it has everything here. And so now what we'll do is head over to RPG Bakin. All right, so we're back in RPG Bakin. I'm gonna go over to resources, and then I'll go to add, local files, and then I'll look for UMod painted. Now, I'm not gonna mess with this scaling yet. Let me just double check and check to see if it's gonna import properly. And I think I clicked it. I think it's loading it now. All right, so we have everything. It looks like the asset has been added. Let's take a look. It looks like there is a little bit of an issue. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is hit close on that. And there was a little bit of error, but let's go ahead and go back to the resources and see what we got going on. So I'm gonna hit add again, and let's go to local files. And this time I'll go ahead and select it. I think it was this one. I'm gonna go ahead and hit add and exit. There we go. Oh, okay, so there it is. All right. So sometimes you can have a little bit of error, not exactly sure, but there's our asset with the texture all put together nicely. All right. So now that we have this here, what do we want to do? Well, we want to use it, right? Well, what we want to go ahead and do is check a couple things. If this asset, now, first of all, this is the collision. Now, right now it's using a box shape for the collision when you're importing an object into Bakin. And typically for something like this would be completely fine. I would use a box. There's no need to use an actual shape. But if you didn't know, you can go to here where you go to mesh. And what that's going to give you the ability to do is select and mesh to use as the collision. So what we want to do is select the same mesh we just imported. It's going to be this one. I'm going to hit add and exit. And what I'm going to need to do is where it says size, we're going to change the size of that actual collision mesh. And then what it needs to be is the same size that we imported. So it's going to be 0.001 and 0.001. Great. And so now we have our mesh with a perfect collision for it. All right, and we also have our texture. We're not going to get into any of these details here, but for now we're going to kind of go that route. All right, so I'm going to hit OK. All right, and so where did we store this? It looks like it's here. We look like we have a couple here, so let's see which one this one is. Looks like it's one of these. Which one? The name. If I hover the name, painted 01, painted this one. All right. So I click it, and there you have it. And so now we've created a Unity asset, and it looks like it has this pivot. So I'll show you that in a second. But we have our Unity asset that we created using a 3D modeling software directly in Unity. That's pretty powerful, I believe. And so, yeah, so I'm going to keep this video short right here, and we're going to kind of continue to build on this for the next. So, yeah, so hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you can see the benefits of using Unity with Bakin as a tool and not necessarily as a game engine. Okay. Yeah, so I will see you guys in the next video.